In its simplest form, in the basic form, identity is all about knowing and having a clear-cut understanding of who you are, of what you stand for, and the values that guide your life. Why should we look at the topic of identity? Why should we take it very seriously? I mean, if you get to understand who you are, if you get to understand what you stand for, and of course the values that guide your life, that guide your decisions, the decisions you make, and the paths you choose to follow, you won't fall for just anything or what. Most people, when they make certain decisions, who do I get married to? Should I pursue another degree? Now, when you consider all these things, you would first of all think first before making certain decisions. Most often than not, if you don't have that sense of identity, if such a person doesn't have that sense of identity, you begin to realize that such people begin to make hasty decisions, decisions as a result of what people would say about them. There are many words people throw out, loosely when they are having conversations with people, without even sometimes considering the import of such words or the meaning to understand, okay, are these words supposed to be used in this context? Words like self-esteem, self-evaluation, perception, personality, and what have you. Okay, we are not yet to learn about the meaning of words and their usage. But then, when we think about it, one of those words actually would be identity. And when you hear people talking, you hear them talk about, okay, my identity is this, I identify as that, and what have you, without truly even understanding what it really means and even why it even matters to understand or to get to know your identity, as it were. Now, let's take a look at what it means, what identity really is. In its simplest form, in the basic form, identity is all about knowing and having a clear-cut understanding of who you are, of what you stand for, and the values that guide your life. I'm going to take that again. Identity is understanding, having a clear-cut understanding of who you are, of what you stand for, and the guiding principles, the values that guide your life. Now, having said all of this, why should we look at the topic of identity? Why should we take it very seriously? It is very, very serious. It matters most for us to understand this, so that when we come to understand these three components in the definition I just gave to you, you would begin to see that even when certain things come your way, you will not be easily swayed, by things like pressures, things like, confusion, and even the opinion of some other people. I mean, if you get to understand who you are, if you get to understand what you stand for, and of course the values that guide your life, that guide your decisions, the decisions you make, and the paths you choose to follow, you won't fall for just anything or whatever anybody says. But then again, when we think about it, we realize that the reverse is actually the case for most, if not all. What do I mean by this? Most people, when they make certain decisions, or with respect to whatever it is they are doing at the moment, the decisions they make, the plans they choose to make, the things like, okay, for example, who do I get married to? What work should I do? What work should I do? What should I pursue another degree to add to the previous degree I already have? Should I leave my present location? Should I travel outside of the country? Now, when you consider all these things, you would first of all think first before making certain decisions, that you decide to make. And when you begin to realize that some people actually don't have that sense of fulfillment, irrespective of what they are doing, even if that thing might be bringing an amount of money or so, because some people tend to, get into doing certain things, going into certain businesses or ventures or what have you, making decisions, generally speaking, just because of what they think they might enjoy from it. But what they don't realize or understand is that most often than not, if you don't have that sense of identity, if such a person doesn't have that sense of identity, you begin to realize that such people begin to make hasty decisions, decisions as a result of what people would say about them, decisions as a result of the opinions of others, concerning them. Decisions also as a result of even traumas. Yes, traumas, very, very important. As a result of what most have gone through in their past life. Well, maybe not past life, in the past, the hurtful experiences and what have you. Without processing all these things, they develop traumas that go with them along the way, and they begin to make certain decisions, taking certain steps as a result of these traumas, as a result of all those things that have already formed them. Another big part of identity is this: identity, having a good grasp, a good understanding of what identity is, of who you are, basically speaking, having that basic and foundational understanding of who you are will help you to understand what you've been designed to do, your internal wiring, so that you don't just fall for just anything. What do I mean by this? Let's take this example quickly. Now, you want to make a pot of soup, right? You get your condiments, you get your ingredients, you get the water and what have you. You get your cooking pot, you mix everything the way you'd normally mix it, right? And in order for the ingredients to mix very well, you understand that it will need a degree or an intensity of heat to warm it up, so that all the condiments, all the ingredients come together to give you the desired product. And so, having mixed everything together inside your pot, you carry the pot, and instead of putting it on top of a system, a tool, a device, right, that would generate the needed heat. We're talking about a gas cooker, an electric cooker, as the case may be. You instead take that pot of soup and you open your refrigerating system, put it inside, put back the door, close back the door, and then you wait, hoping for that result, only for you to open that same refrigerator and you look at what is already inside the pot and it's not giving you the result. That's because the use of the refrigerator has been tampered with, has been what's that word again? Has been tampered with, has been abused, basically. Because a refrigerator is a refrigerator. That is the identity of that refrigerator. And because you understand that a refrigerator is a cooling system, you would know all too well not to put a pot of soup to get the result you're supposed to get if you have put it on a gas cooker or an electric cooker, hoping to get the same result from a refrigerator. No, it's not wired that way. It's not designed, but and it's not designed that way. And the same also applies to you as well. If you don't understand who you are, if you don't have a basic understanding of what you've been created for, you might as well be doing something now that is outside of your wiring, outside of your desiring, just because the other influences in your life, the reasons you've given for doing what you're doing is what is actually directing you, which is not meant to be. Now, to have a firm grasp of your design, to have a firm grasp of what you've been, wired to do, your functionality here on earth, it is very, very important. It is very, very key for you to go back to your maker, to understand who you truly are, so that you'll be able to function as he designed you to function from the very beginning. Now, we take a look at a verse of scripture that talks about, that's the book of Genesis. When God spoke to the first man and the first woman, having created them, he looked at them and he blessed them. And he said, be fruitful, be multiplied, replenish the earth, have dominion over the fishes of the sea, over the birds of the air, and over living thing that walks upon the face of the earth. That was what he commanded them to do, because he had already designed them that way. Imagine if the first man and the first woman decided to, as opposed to having dominion over the fishes, they decided to live like the fishes, live in the water. You and I know that's not even possible, because we are not wired that way as human beings. We haven't been wired that way to exist inside an aquatic environment, right? And so, like I've been saying, it means that we have to find out, we have to take time, you have to take time to sit down, to understand your wiring. Go back to your maker, go back to God and ask pertinent questions. Ask those important questions instead of just moving through the motions of life or in life, right? And ask those questions to understand your identity, to know who you are, so that you can bring out the best from yourself, because your best version is still yet to be realized.